Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below, and if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. Now, back to Elena Carter. Elena Carter's hand froze above the silver coffee pot the moment she heard the sentence. Not because the man's voice was loud, not because the room was dangerous, but because the words spoken in Arabic were not the words Victor Hale translated into English. The private conference room on the top floor of the Bellarosa Hotel looked like a place where ordinary people were never meant to breathe. Dark walnut walls, black marble floors, a chandelier hanging over the long table like frozen rain. Beyond the glass windows, New York glittered below them, cold and distant. At the center of the table sat Dante Moretti, 36 years old, black suit, silver cufflinks, stillness sharp enough to frighten men who carried guns for a living. He did not need to raise his voice. Men lowered theirs when he entered a room. Across from him sat Khalid al-Haroun, representative of a powerful family from Dubai. His advisors sat on either side of him, silent and watchful. Between them stood Victor Hale, Dante's personal translator for 10 years. Victor was polished, elegant, confident. He wore a navy suit and a smile that made lies feel expensive. Everyone in the room trusted his voice. And Elena? Elena was only there to pour coffee. That was what everyone believed. She moved along the wall in her gray maid's uniform, careful not to let her shoes make sound against the marble. Her natural curls were pinned neatly at the back of her head. Her eyes stayed low, the way staff were trained to keep them in places where powerful men discussed money, territory, and peace. No one looked at her. No one thanked her. No one wondered what she understood. Khalid leaned forward and spoke in Arabic, his tone formal but firm. Elena understood every word. He said, "Our family is willing to share control of the southern docks, but we will not surrender them. Respect must go both ways, Mr. Moretti." Victor smiled. Then he turned to Dante and translated smoothly. "He says his family accepts your authority completely. They are prepared to surrender control of the southern docks by midnight." Elena felt the blood leave her face. That was not a mistake. Mistake was one word misplaced. One phrase softened. One cultural meaning missed. This was different. This was a knife wrapped in silk. Dante's expression did not change, but the room shifted. His men straightened. Khalid's advisors exchanged sharp glances. Something dangerous had entered the air. Elena lowered the coffee pot. "Stay quiet," her mind warned her. "You are not part of this. Women like you survive by knowing when not to speak." But then Khalid spoke again, slower this time. "Partnership is possible. Submission is not." Victor translated without blinking. "He says his family is honored to submit to your leadership." A few of Dante's men smiled. Khalid's jaw tightened. Elena's stomach turned. This was how wars began. Not always with gunfire. Sometimes with one man changing another man's words. She took half a step forward. Victor noticed immediately. His blue eyes snapped toward her. "Coffee, Elena," he said, loud enough for the table to hear. "Not opinions." A few men chuckled. One of Dante's capos muttered, "Since when do maids understand diplomacy?" The laughter was quiet, expensive, and cruel. Elena felt heat rise behind her eyes. For 1 second, she was every room she had ever been dismissed from. Every office where men spoke over her. Every hallway where people forgot her name, but remembered she was there to clean. Her fingers trembled, but she did not drop the pot. Dante picked up the silver pen. The contract waited beneath his hand. If he signed, the lie would become law in his world. Elena moved. She crossed the few steps to Dante's chair, pretending to refill his cup. Victor's smile vanished. Elena leaned close enough that only Dante could hear. "Sir." Dante's hand paused. She swallowed. Then she whispered the words that changed the temperature of the room. "Your translator is lying to you." The silver pen froze half an inch above the contract. Victor went still. Khalid looked up. Every conversation died at once. For the first time that night, Dante Moretti did not look at the deal. He looked at the maid. And the room went silent. Dante did not move. That frightened Elena more than anger would have. A weaker man would have shouted. A foolish man would have laughed. But Dante Moretti only sat there, the pen still between his fingers, his dark eyes fixed on her face. Victor recovered first. He gave a soft laugh, the kind meant to turn danger into embarrassment. "I'm sorry," he said, looking around the table. "Did the maid just interrupt an international negotiation?" A few men chuckled again. This time, the laughter did not last. Because Dante had not laughed. He slowly lowered the pen onto the table. The small sound of silver touching would seem to echo through the room. Repeat that, Dante said. Victor stepped forward. Boss, with respect, she doesn't know what she's. Dante did not look at him. I wasn't speaking to you. The room cooled. Elena straightened. Her hands trembled, so she folded them in front of her uniform. Every instinct told her to apologize and disappear. But truth had already stepped into the light. Mr. Alharoun did not offer surrender, she said quietly. He offered shared control of the southern docks. He said respect had to go both ways. Victor's smile sharpened. That is absurd. Elena kept her eyes on Dante. Then he said partnership was possible. Submission was not. Khalid's advisors shifted in their seats. Khalid looked from Elena to Victor, then back to Dante. He spoke in Arabic, slowly and clearly. Victor opened his mouth. Dante raised one hand. Victor stopped. For the first time that evening, Dante turned fully toward him. Don't translate. Victor blinked. Excuse me. You heard me. Victor's face remained composed, but something behind his eyes tightened. Dante looked back at Elena. What did he say? Elena inhaled. He said, at last, someone in this room is listening. Silence. Not empty silence. Heavy silence. The kind that made every man aware of his own breathing. Khalid gave the smallest nod. Dante saw it. Victor saw it too. And for the first time, Victor's confidence began to crack. One of Dante's men, Rocco, pushed back his chair. Boss, this could be a trick. No offense, but we don't know her. She cleans rooms. Victor has been with us 10 years. There it was. Not what she said. Who she was. Elena felt the old humiliation rise in her chest. A woman in a gray uniform could speak truth, but the uniform would speak louder. Her skin, her job, her silence, all of it was being weighed before her words were even heard. Dante looked at Rocco. Sit down. Rocco hesitated. Then he sat. Dante turned back to Elena. How do you know Arabic? The question was simple. The answer was not. Elena could feel every eye on her now. Victor's suspicion. Khalid's curiosity. Dante's unreadable stare. My father taught it, she said. Your father? Samuel Carter. He taught Middle Eastern languages before he died. Khalid's expression shifted slightly. Victor seized the moment. A touching story, he said. But anyone can invent a dead professor. Elena finally looked at him. Really looked at him. Her voice stayed low. My father used to say a translator should be invisible only when he is honest. Victor's smile faded. Elena continued. But when he lies, he becomes the most dangerous man in the room. No one laughed. Khalid spoke again in Arabic. Elena translated. He says my father was right. Dante stood. Slowly. Every chair around the table seemed smaller when he rose. He looked at Victor. Ask Mr. Alharoun if he is willing to continue with Elena translating. Victor's face went pale. Dante, I strongly advise against that. I didn't ask for advice. This is dangerous. Dante's voice dropped. For who? Victor said nothing. Dante looked at Elena. Ask him. Elena turned to Khalid. In clean Arabic, she asked whether he would accept her as temporary translator. Khalid listened. Then he smiled faintly. He answered. Elena translated. He says he would prefer the woman who tells him the truth over the man who sells both sides a lie. Dante's jaw tightened. Victor looked away. Dante pointed to the chair beside him. Sit there. Elena stared at him. A maid did not sit at the negotiation table. Not in rooms like this. Not beside men like Dante Moretti. But Dante did not repeat himself. So Elena walked to the chair and sat down, smoothing the front of her gray uniform beneath the table. For the first time that evening, she was not standing behind them. She was among them. Dante looked across at Khalid. From the beginning. And this time, every word entered the room clean. Khalid began again. Elena listened carefully, her hands folded on the table, her pulse still uneven. She translated each sentence slowly, leaving no room for confusion. Shared control of the southern docks. Equal security oversight. Written protection for both family shipments. No movement into each other's territory without notice. As she spoke, Dante's expression changed. Not softened. Never that. But sharpened. He was beginning to understand how much had almost been stolen from him. Maybe not just tonight. Maybe for months. Victor stood near the wall now, no longer at the center of the room. His hands were clasped behind his back, but Elena noticed his fingers flexing. Once, twice, a nervous rhythm, a guilty rhythm. Then Khalid said something that made Elena's breath catch. She paused. Dante noticed immediately. Translate. Elena glanced at Victor. His eyes locked onto hers, warning her, begging her, threatening her. All at once, Dante's voice cut through the air. Elena. She turned back to him. Mr. Alharound says this is not the first time your translator changed his words. The room tightened. Khalid continued. Elena listened, each sentence heavier than the last. 3 months ago, she translated. His cousin sent a peace proposal through Victor Hale. Victor's face lost color. Elena swallowed. But your side responded with an insult. Dante went still. The word insult changed everything. 3 months ago, a warehouse near the river had burned after a failed negotiation. 6 men had died, 3 from Dante's side, 3 from Khalid's. Since then, both families had blamed each other. Revenge had sat between them like a loaded weapon. Dante looked at Victor. What insult? Khalid's advisor opened a leather folder and slid a printed document across the table. Elena looked at the Arabic first, then at the English message attached beneath it. Her stomach turned. This response says the Alharound family was weak, dishonorable, and unworthy of negotiation, Elena said. Dante's eyes darkened. I never said that. At the bottom of the message was Dante's official seal. Beneath it, a transmission note. Handled by Victor Hale. No one spoke. Victor stepped forward quickly. This is ridiculous. Documents can be forged. You know that better than anyone. Khalid replied sharply in Arabic. Elena translated. He says that is why he brought the original communication record. Another document was placed on the table. This one contained the original proposal sent by Khalid's cousin. Elena read it in silence. It was not a threat. It was not an insult. It was a request for peace. A private meeting. No retaliation. No expansion. No blood. Dante took the page from Elena's hand and read it himself, though he could not understand the Arabic. Perhaps he did not need to. The structure, the signatures, the dates, they were enough to confirm that something had been hidden from him. He looked at Victor again. You told me they refused peace. Victor's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Rocco, who had doubted Elena minutes earlier, stared at the table as if afraid to meet her eyes. Khalid spoke again, slower now. Elena translated. He says the false reply led his men to believe you wanted humiliation, not peace. Dante's hand curled into a fist on the table. Elena noticed the restraint in it. Not rage unleashed. Rage controlled. That was worse. Victor finally found his voice. I protected you. Dante turned his head. From peace. Victor's jaw tightened. From weakness. The word fell into the room like poison. Elena looked at him then and understood. This was not just about mistranslation. Not just about a bad deal. Victor had not been serving Dante. He had been shaping him. Changing words. Removing mercy. Making every offer sound like surrender. Every disagreement sound like disrespect. Every peace proposal sound like an insult. A translator could prevent war. Or create one. Dante slowly pushed the documents together. How many times? Victor said nothing. Dante's voice dropped. How many times did you put your words in my mouth? Victor's mask began to crack. For one brief second, Elena saw the man beneath the polish. Angry, bitter, desperate to be more than the voice beside the throne. You needed me, Victor said. Dante stared at him. I trusted you. Victor laughed once, low and bitter. No, you used me. The room went silent again. Not because Victor had defended himself, but because he had finally stopped pretending. Victor's words hung in the air, but Elena barely heard them at first. Something about that moment pulled her backward through time. Not to the Bella Rosa Hotel, not to Dante's table, but to a small kitchen in Washington, D.C., where her father used to sit beneath a yellow lamp with stacks of books, index cards, and black tea gone cold. Samuel Carter had never owned an expensive suit. He had never entered rooms like this. But when he spoke about language, even silence listened. Elena remembered being 9 years old, swinging her legs beneath the table while her father wrote Arabic letters across a page. This one is not just a sound, he told her. It is history, culture, memory. You must respect every word before you carry it. Back then, she did not understand why he was so serious. To her, language was a game, a secret code between father and daughter. He would point at objects around the kitchen, asking for their names in Arabic, then French, then Spanish. Her mother would laugh from the stove and say he was turning their child into a walking dictionary. But Samuel always corrected her gently. Not a dictionary, he said. A bridge. Years later, Elena learned what he meant. She watched her father translate for immigrant families at clinics, schools, and court offices. People arrived frightened, holding papers they could not read, facing officials who spoke too fast and listened too little. Her father never made them feel small. He would sit beside them, lower his voice, and make sure every word crossed safely. A translator does not own the truth, he told Elena. He serves it. Then he got sick. Slowly at first. Then all at once. Hospital rooms replaced classrooms. Medical bills replaced books. Elena, who had once planned to study linguistics, took cleaning jobs to help her mother keep the lights on. After her father died, school became impossible. Dreams became luxuries. Work became survival. And the world taught her quickly what it saw when it looked at her. Not a scholar's daughter. Not a woman fluent in 3 languages. A maid. A pair of hands. Someone useful only when invisible. So Elena stopped telling people what she knew. It was easier that way. Safer. Until tonight. Dante's voice pulled her back. Ms. Carter. The title made her blink. He had not called her Elena. He had not called her girl. He had not called her maid. Ms. Carter. Dante was watching her carefully. Can you translate the original proposal in full? Elena looked at the document. Her father's voice echoed somewhere inside her. Carry the words safely. She nodded. Yes. The room settled. Even Victor fell quiet. Elena began. She translated the proposal line by line. No performance. No drama. Just accuracy. She explained the formal phrases, the respectful tone, the cultural meaning behind certain expressions. She clarified that Khaled's cousin had not threatened Dante. He had offered a path away from retaliation. As she spoke, Khaled's eyes changed. There was surprise there. Then respect. Dante's men listened too, some with discomfort, some with shame. Rocco kept his head low. Victor stared at Elena with open hatred now. That hatred told her she was doing exactly what he feared. When she finished, the room did not erupt. It did something more powerful. It absorbed the truth. Dante looked at Khaled. Your cousin asked for peace. Khaled replied in Arabic. Elena translated. Yes. And received humiliation. Dante lowered his eyes to the document. For the first time all evening, he looked not like a boss, but like a man seeing the shape of his own blindness. I never saw this, he said. Khaled studied him, then spoke again. Elena translated. Then someone made enemies of us both. The sentence sat between the two men. Clear. Undeniable. Victor took a step back. Small. Almost unnoticeable. But Elena noticed. So did Dante. His eyes lifted. Victor, he said softly. Victor froze. Dante leaned forward. You told me their family wanted war. Victor's lips tightened. Elena watched his face and knew the next lie was coming before he spoke it. Victor straightened his jacket as if dignity could be buttoned back into place. Then he looked directly at Dante. Boss, you are making a mistake. His voice was calm again. Too calm. Elena recognized the shift. He was no longer trying to deny everything. He was choosing a new strategy. Destroy the witness. Victor turned toward the table, spreading his hands. Think about what just happened. A woman none of us know, a housekeeper with sudden hidden talents, walks into the most sensitive negotiation of the year and turns both sides against me within minutes. His eyes moved to Khaled. Convenient, isn't it? Khaled's advisor stiffened. Victor continued. Maybe she speaks Arabic. Fine. But who sent her? Who trained her? Why was she placed in this room tonight? Elena felt the accusation wrap around her throat. She had expected anger. She had not expected this. Dante said nothing. Victor saw that silence as permission. She has access to your rooms, your documents, your private schedules. She is invisible by design. That makes her useful, doesn't it? Rocco looked up, uncertain. Some of Dante's men exchanged glances. Doubt, once planted, needed very little water. Victor stepped closer to the table. For all we know, she has been feeding information to Al-Haroun for months. Elena's face warmed. That is a lie. Victor smiled. Is it? Then explain why Mr. Al-Haroun seems so ready to trust you. The words were clever. Cruel. They turned respect into suspicion. Elena looked at Dante, but his face remained unreadable. For the first time that night, fear truly entered her chest. Not fear of Victor. fear of being unseen again. Because this was how men like him won. They did not always need to prove guilt. They only needed to make dignity look suspicious. Victor's voice softened. Dante, I have stood beside you for 10 years. I have negotiated deals that kept your family alive. And now you are letting a maid with a sad story undo all of it. There it was again. A maid. Elena felt the sting, but this time she did not lower her eyes. Dante finally spoke. Are you finished? Victor blinked. I'm trying to protect you. No, Dante said. You are trying to bury her. The room stilled. Dante looked at Elena. Miss Carter, how long have you worked at my estate? 8 months. Who hired you? Mrs. Bell, the head housekeeper. Did you know you would be serving this meeting tonight? No. I was assigned after another server called in sick. Dante looked to Luca, his security chief. Luca nodded. That's correct. Victor's jaw tightened. Dante continued. Did Ms. Carter have access to tonight's negotiation documents? Luca answered. No. The documents were locked until an hour before the meeting. Dante turned back to Victor. And who had access? No one moved. Victor's expression changed. Just slightly. Luca said quietly. You did. The room inhaled. Victor's attack had turned. Dante walked to the side table and picked up the coffee pot Elena had set down earlier. He looked at it for a moment, then back at Victor. She came in carrying coffee. He pointed to the documents. You came in carrying the words. Victor's face hardened. Dante stepped closer. Only one of you changed them. Khalid spoke in Arabic, calm but firm. Elena translated. He says a liar often accuses the honest person of standing too close to the truth. Victor's mask slipped. Enough of this theater. His hand moved toward his jacket. Not fast, but enough. Lucas stepped forward instantly. Don't. Victor froze. Every eye went to his hand. The room held its breath. Slowly, Victor lifted both hands away from his body. Empty. But the instinct had revealed more than any confession. Dante's voice turned quiet. Search him. Victor's face went white. Luca approached Victor with 2 guards. Victor did not fight. Not openly. But his eyes burned as. They searched his jacket, his pockets, his cufflinks. The room watched in absolute silence. From his inner pocket, Luca removed a small encrypted phone. From beneath his sleeve, a storage drive no larger than a fingernail. From his wallet, a folded travel document under another name. Rocco cursed under his breath. Khalid leaned forward. Dante looked at the items on the table, then at Victor. Leaving tonight. Victor's lips pressed together. He said nothing. Dante picked up the encrypted phone. The screen lit under his thumb, showing a message notification. Contract signed. No name. Only a number. Khalid's advisor saw the number and went still. He whispered urgently to Khalid. Dante noticed. You recognize it. Khalid spoke in Arabic. Elena translated carefully. He says the number belongs to a broker who works with both families' enemies. A cold line passed through the room. This was no longer about one bad translation. This was a trap. Elena looked at the documents, the phone, the storage drive. Pieces of truth, scattered across a table that powerful men had almost turned into a battlefield. Dante looked at her. Can you read the messages if we open them? Elena hesitated. If they are in Arabic, yes. But I won't guess. If I don't know something, I'll say so. Khalid's eyes softened slightly at that. Victor laughed bitterly. How noble. Elena ignored him. Luca connected the phone to a secure tablet. After a moment, lines of messages appeared, some in English, some in Arabic, some coded with initials and dates. Elena leaned forward. She read slowly. The room waited. This one says the agreement must fail tonight, she translated. It says Dante must believe Khalid is surrendering, and Khalid must believe Dante is demanding humiliation. Dante's expression turned colder. She continued. This one mentions the warehouse fire. Khalid's hands tightened on the table. Elena read the Arabic twice, making sure she understood. Her voice lowered. It says the fire was useful because grief makes men easier to guide. No one spoke. Even Victor looked away. Elena felt sick, but she kept reading. Her father had taught her that truth deserved steady hands. This message asks whether Victor can still control both translations. Dante looked at Victor. Can you? Victor's face was pale now, but his pride held. You think she is saving you, he said. She is just making herself necessary. Elena turned to him. No, I'm making the truth necessary. The words landed clean. Victor had no answer. Khalid spoke then, not to Dante, but to Elena. His Arabic was formal, respectful. Elena translated his words into English, though everyone knew he had meant them for her. He asks whether you will translate his next statement exactly, even if it offends Mr. Moretti. Elena looked at Dante. Dante gave one nod. Exactly. Khalid stood. His advisor stood with him. Dante's men stiffened, but Khalid raised one hand peacefully. He spoke for almost a full minute. Elena listened without interrupting. When he finished, she turned to Dante. He says your name carries power, but power without honest ears becomes blindness. He says his family came tonight prepared to risk peace, but not dignity. If you want partnership, it must be with truth between you, not fear. The room went still. It was not a soft message. It was not flattering, but it was honest. Dante stared at Khalid for a long moment. Then he looked at Elena. And that is exactly what he said. Yes. Dante turned back to Khalid. For the first time that night, he inclined his head. Not a bow, but close enough for everyone to understand. Then tell him this. Elena prepared herself. Dante spoke slowly. I do not apologize for strength, but I will not let another man's lies speak in my name. If your family came for peace, then tonight, you will receive my answer directly. Elena translated. Khalid listened. Then he placed one hand over his heart. The tension in the room did not disappear, but it changed shape. No longer a blade. A bridge. Victor watched from the wall, and for the first time, he looked afraid of Elena not because she was powerful, but because she was accurate. The meeting should have ended there. But truth, once invited in, rarely stops at the first door. Khalid's advisor opened another folder and placed 3 photographs on the table. They showed the warehouse near the river, before the fire, after the fire, and a third image taken from security footage. Elena looked at the third photograph. A man stood near the loading entrance, face partly hidden by rain and shadow. But his posture was familiar. Victor saw it too. His breathing changed. Dante picked up the photo. Who is this? Khalid answered in Arabic. Elena translated. He says this man delivered the false reply 1 hour before the fire. Dante looked at Luca. Luca studied the image. Then his face hardened. That's Victor. Victor exploded. That could be anyone. Luca stepped closer. Same coat. Same watch. Same scar on the right hand. Everyone looked at Victor's hand. A thin pale scar crossed one knuckle. Victor curled his fingers. Too late. Khalid spoke again, his voice controlled but heavy. Elena translated. He says his cousin agreed to meet that night because he believed Dante had changed his mind. When he arrived, the warehouse was already surrounded by men who did not belong to either family. Dante's eyes did not move from Victor. You set the meeting. Victor said nothing. You sent my men there. Still nothing. You sent his men there. Victor looked at the floor. That was enough. Rocco stood suddenly, rage on his face. 6 men died because of you. Dante raised one hand. Rocco stopped, breathing hard. Elena watched Dante carefully. She expected fury. A shout. A command that would make everyone flinch. Instead, Dante looked tired for the first time. Not weak. Never weak. But tired in the way only betrayal can make a man tired. Why, he asked. Victor's mouth twisted. For a moment, he seemed to debate whether to keep lying. Then something in him broke. Because peace makes men like me disposable. The confession did not come like thunder. It came like rock finally splitting open. Victor looked at Dante with 10 years of bitterness in his eyes. When families fight, they need interpreters. They need messages controlled. They need someone who understands every side but belongs to none. I was useful. Necessary. His gaze shifted to Elena. Then people like her appear. Honest. Humble. So touching. And men like you remember that voices can be replaced. Elena felt the insult, but it no longer pierced as deeply. Victor was not speaking truth. He was exposing his wound. Dante's voice was quiet. You killed men because you feared becoming unimportant. Victor snapped back. I kept your empire moving. You poisoned it. Victor flinched. Khalid said something in Arabic, short and cold. Elena translated. He says a bridge that charges blood as toll should be burned. No one disagreed. The storage drive was opened next. Inside were copies of altered transcripts, false summaries, and payment records. Victor had not acted alone, but he had been the hand inside the room. The hand trusted by both sides. The hand that changed peace into insult and insult into war. Elena translated each file name, each note, each phrase. With every sentence, the room became more still. Dante finally stepped away from the table and stood before Victor. 10 years, he said. Victor's face trembled. Dante, I trusted your voice more than my own ears. Victor looked away. Dante's jaw tightened. That was my mistake. The words were not shouted. That made them worse. Victor's eyes lifted once more to Elena. You should have stayed quiet. Dante moved before the sentence finished. He did not touch Victor. He simply stepped between them. A wall in a black suit. She spoke the truth, Dante said. That is why you hate her. Victor had no answer left. For the first time, Elena saw him clearly. Not brilliant. Not powerful. Small. A man who had mistaken control for worth. Dante turned to Luca. Remove him from this room. Secure every device. No one speaks to him without me. Luca nodded. 2 guards took Victor by the arms. Victor tried to pull back once. Only once. Then he stopped. As he was led to the door, no one defended him. Not one man. The door closed softly behind him. And somehow, that quiet sound felt heavier than any shout. After Victor was gone, the room remained frozen. The documents still lay across the table. The coffee had gone cold. The chandelier cast gold light over evidence, contracts, and the wreckage of 10 years of trust. No one knew who should speak first. So Elena did. Not loudly, not as a command, but as a reminder. The agreement still matters. Every eye turned to her. For a moment, she regretted speaking. Then Dante looked at the papers and understood. Victor had wanted the night to end in accusation. If the room collapsed into rage, he would still win a piece of what he had planned. The only true defeat of his lie was for both sides to continue with the truth. Dante returned to his chair. But before he sat, he looked at Elena. Will you continue, Ms. Carter? Ms. Carter. Again. This time, no one smirked. Elena nodded. Yes. Khalid sat as well. Slowly, his advisors followed. Dante's men did the same. The room did not become warm. Men like these did not become friends because one lie was exposed. But the air had changed. Suspicion remained, yet it no longer stood alone. Beside it now was proof. Elena translated the agreement from the beginning. Line by line. Shared control. Security boundaries. Equal inspection rights. Emergency communication channels. A direct translation protocol requiring 2 independent interpreters from both families. When she reached that clause, Khalid smiled faintly. Dante noticed. Add one more condition, Dante said. Elena looked up. Both sides will record every future negotiation in the original language. No summary replaces the spoken word. Elena translated. Khalid listened, then gave a single approving nod. He agrees. Rocco shifted uncomfortably. Then, to Elena's surprise, he spoke. Ms. Carter. She turned. He looked ashamed, though he tried to hide it. Earlier, I questioned you. The room waited. Rocco swallowed. I was wrong. It was not a beautiful apology. It was rough, awkward, unpolished. But in that room, from that man, it was something. Elena nodded once. Thank you. Dante watched the exchange without comment, but his eyes remained sharp. The final contract was rewritten. Not by Victor's hand. Not through his voice. Khalid's legal advisor drafted the changes. Dante's lawyer reviewed them, and Elena translated every point before either man agreed. This time, no one rushed. This time, no one assumed. When the final page was placed before Dante, he did not sign immediately. He looked across at Khalid. Do you understand these terms as I understand them? Elena translated. Khalid answered. Yes. Dante looked at Elena. Exact. Exact. Only then did Dante sign. Khalid signed after him. No applause followed. No cheers. Just a long breath released by a room that had almost become a battlefield. Khalid stood. Dante stood too. The 2 men faced each other across the table. For years, pride had made them enemies through words neither had truly spoken. Now silence did what translation had failed to do. It gave them space to see each other. Khalid placed his hand over his heart and spoke. Elena translated. He says tonight, the woman who served coffee served peace. The words moved through the room like a quiet wave. Elena looked down, overwhelmed. She had not saved anyone with a weapon. She had not made a speech. She had only listened, only spoken accurately, only refused to let a lie pass through her silence. And somehow, that had been enough. Dante turned to his men. From this night forward, no one in my organization mocks the person standing closest to the truth. His gaze passed over Rocco, then the others. Is that understood? One by one, they answered. Yes, boss. Dante looked back at Elena. For the first time, his expression held something that was not suspicion, not command, not calculation. Respect. Ms. Carter, he said, after our guests leave, I would like a word. Elena's heart tightened. She nodded. The old fear rose again, but quieter now. Because whatever happened next, one thing had changed forever. The room had heard her. The meeting ended just after midnight. Khalid and his advisors left through the private elevator, surrounded by security but no longer by suspicion. Before the doors closed, Khalid looked back at Elena and gave a final respectful nod. She returned it softly. Dante's men gathered the documents, secured the devices, and left one by one. Rocco paused at the door as if he wanted to say more, but shame made him clumsy. He only nodded to Elena and disappeared into the hallway. Then the room was quiet. Only Dante and Elena remained. The chandeliers still glowed above them. The city still glittered beyond the glass. But the room felt different now, as if the walls themselves had witnessed something they would not forget. Elena stood near the side table, her hands resting beside the coffee pot. The same pot she had carried into the room when no one saw her. Dante approached slowly, not like a boss closing distance, like a man careful not to frighten someone he had already failed to see. You were going to let me sign, he said. Elena looked up. For a moment, yes. He studied her. Why didn't you? She thought about giving a simple answer. Because it was wrong. Because men would die. Because your translator was lying. All of that was true, but none of it was the whole truth. Because my father taught me that silence can become part of the lie, she said. Dante absorbed that. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he walked to the table and touched the contract with 2 fingers. Tonight, I learned that I built a room full of powerful men. He looked back at her. And none of them heard what you heard. Elena's throat tightened. Praise was not something she trusted easily. Too often, people used it to soften the memory of how they had treated you before. So she said the truth. They didn't think I could hear. Dante's face changed slightly. Not anger. Recognition. Neither did I. That admission cost him something. Elena could see it. Dante Moretti was not a man used to confessing blindness. But there he stood, in the quiet after betrayal, facing the woman everyone had dismissed. I owe you an apology, he said. Elena blinked. No one had moved. No music swelled. No crowd watched. Yet the words felt larger than the room. You don't have to, I do. His voice was firm. You were treated as invisible in my room. Then you saved everyone in it. Elena looked down, emotion pressing behind her eyes. I was just doing what my father would have done. Dante nodded slowly. Then he taught you well. The words reached a place in her grief she had not expected anyone in this world to touch. For a moment, she saw her father's kitchen again. The yellow lamp. The papers. His patient hand guiding hers over unfamiliar letters. A bridge, Ellie. Not a dictionary. A bridge. Dante stepped back, giving her space. I want you to choose your next position. Elena looked at him, confused. My position? Translator. Advisor. Independent consultant. Or nothing at all, if you prefer to leave this world behind. But if you stay, you will not return to being unseen. Elena stared at him. For months, she had cleaned rooms where men decided the future. She had folded napkins beside conversations that assumed she had no mind. She had made herself small because small was safe. Now the most dangerous man in New York was offering her a chair. Not as charity, as recognition. I need time, she said. Dante nodded. Take it. Then, after a pause, he added, and Elena? She looked up. No one in my house will call you just a maid again. Her eyes held steady. Being a maid was never the shame, Mr. Moretti. Dante went still. Elena's voice was soft, but it did not tremble. The shame was thinking that meant I had nothing to say. The room fell silent. Not with fear this time. With understanding. Dante lowered his eyes, accepting the correction. Outside, the first thin line of dawn began to touch the city glass. Elena picked up the coffee pot. Not because anyone ordered her to. Not because she was retreating into invisibility. But because dignity did not require abandoning humble work. It required that no one confuse humble work with a humble soul. At the door, she paused. Dante was still standing by the table, the signed agreement before him, the empty chair beside him waiting in the quiet. For the first time all night, Elena allowed herself to breathe. And that day, the world remembered what dignity sounds like.